Hi everybody, welcome back to Heart Breathings. Today we are going to go through my Preptober Planner. If you don't have a copy of this yet, you can easily get it if you sign up for my newsletter list. I will leave a link for you down below. It's free. You can always unsubscribe at any time. If you're already on my newsletter list, then you got a link to this Thursday in your email. So go back and check it. Or if you already know the link to the resource library, then you can go grab it from there. So this is something that I've built on top of what I did last year. So if you grabbed the Preptober workbook in 2020, some of the pages will be familiar and they'll still fill out the same way, but I have added to it. Now, one thing that's kind of funny is that since I'm on the road, I don't have a printer. So I had to send this out to Staples to get printed, and I accidentally told them to print it single-sided. I just missed a checkbox somewhere. So I have gone through and glued these pages together so that I can turn them the way they're meant to be. So my pages are particularly thick, and you will see sometimes that there's space in between. So just ignore that. So the cover, of course, you can print in color or not, but it's just a little Preptober cover. I went with kind of a magazine feel. Then I have a quote from Stephen King that I felt like was perfect for Preptober since it's October and it's spooky season. The scariest moment is always just before you start. And this is so true. And I think that it's an important thing to remember, especially throughout NaNoWriMo, because this is all about turning off your inner editor and really just allowing yourself to write. And so often we're scared that what we have in our head is not going to translate onto the page, that we're not going to be able to do it justice, that it's not going to come out right. But it's really scarier before we sit down. Once we actually sit down and start working, we start to understand that we can do this, that we remember how to write a novel, that it's coming naturally. There's going to be moments where things just really flow. And then there will be other moments where it won't flow as much. But as long as you can sit down and keep working, you're going to get there. So I thought that quote would be nice if you want to hang that up or have it in your planner. A little letter from me that has those same 4 tips that I went over in Thursday's video. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, you can go find it on my channel as the previous video from this one. The 2021 noveling checklist, this is exactly the same as it was last year. So just a few checklist things, and all of these may or may not apply to you. So if you don't plot, then maybe you're not going to color code and outline and do index cards. So that's fine. You can just mark that out or however you want to use it. But some of this stuff is still really good. If you want a detailed walkthrough of this checklist, I have it on last year's channel or last year's NaNoWriMo playlist. So I will link that for you down below. But it's basically just prep your plan. So know your word count goals, go through this planner, decide what rewards you want to do, choose what time you're going to write, because this is super important. We'll talk about this more throughout the month. Then prep your tools, like what software are you going to use, what computer are you going to write on, what chair, where are you going to write, extras like any other tools you might need, like headphones, a better mouse. Like if you're constantly getting distracted by the people in your house, a pair of headphones can be really huge. So make sure you've got that. Do you need something to make yourself more comfortable? Prep your writing crew, meaning join the writing groups. We have a Hardy's Word Sprint group. If you want to come join that, I will link that down below. And we do a lot of live video there. So that is really cool. Also, the NaNoWriMo website. So there's forums, join your local group. All of that stuff is really important to your success because community can help you get through it when you're having rough times. Prep your novel. Obviously, this is deciding what to write, knowing a little bit about your characters, color coding if you want to, outlining if you want to. And we're going to talk about this more in this particular Preptober during the videos, that even if you're not a plotter and you prefer to just fly by the seat of your pants, we're still going to work on a rough sketch outline for Nano, just to give you some place to go if you feel like you get stuck. So none of this stuff is like have to. These are just tools that you might find useful. If you prefer to honestly have no idea what you're doing and just start on November 1st and start writing, then go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Prep your space. So your location, like I was saying, like what chair are you going to write? How can you make yourself more comfortable? Create space that inspires you. Maybe that can be moved in with your tools that you're using, things that are appealing to you visually, that you're using candles that you like. What is it that you can do? Also setting the vibe, essential oils, all that kind of stuff. On the next page, we have a November calendar. And I did not create one that is Monday start, and I know that that probably bothers some people. So if you would like for me to just make one real quick for you guys that prefer Monday start, let me know. But really, this is just a tool to mark off the days. So you have a 5-step plan here. Same thing as last year. I just kind of changed this wording a little bit. Step 1, mark off any days this month that you won't be able to write. So for me, I know that we're moving on the 2nd, the 10th, I think again on the 16th, the 19th. We have several moves coming up in the month of November, and I don't know that I'll be able to write on those moving days, or those might be lighter days. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and mark all of those off. So you go ahead, you mark them off. Step 2, choose whether you want to add any buffer days. So if you know from experience with Nano, or just your experience in life, that you get migraines, or that you often struggle with writing after a long day of work and you have an unusual work schedule, you know you have exams and you're not sure if you're going to write after exams, anything that might trip you up, do you want to build in buffer days? Meaning, do you want to plan to have extra days off so that you don't get behind on your goal? If you do, step 3 is to tally up your total days off, meaning your days you marked off that you know you're not going to be able to write because you have, like I said, you're moving, you've got family obligations, it's Thanksgiving Day if you celebrate that here. There's lots of things that might be, or let's say you know you can't work on Saturdays because you can't write on Saturdays because you work a 12-hour shift. If there's any days you know you're not going to be able to write, mark those off, add them to your buffer days. Then you tally it all up. So let's say you added it all up and you had 6 days that you weren't going to be able to write in the month of November. It's so key to take your time into consideration in a realistic manner. So if you thought you had 30 days, according to the Nano website, you need to write 1,667 words per day. But if it turns out that you have 6 days in the month that you're not going to actually be able to write, now instead of 30 days, which is 50,000 divided by 30 to get that 1,667 goal per day, now you have 24 days to work with. So now instead of planning to write 1,667 a day, in which case you're going to be 6 days behind on your goal, you would take the 50,000 words and divide it by 24 days. So I can't do that math in my head. So we're going to say 50,000 divided by 24 days tells you that you actually need to be writing 2,083 words a day to hit your goal if you're going to account for those 6 days off. So what you would do now is you would divide 50,000 words, or your custom word count target. If you're trying to write 60,000 words, you would take 60,000 here and divide it by the number of writing days. So let's say your word count goal, you would write it in here. I'm going to write it in purple. Say my word count goal is going to be the 50,000 words. And then your total writing days this month, maybe it's 30 because you're really going to write every day, but maybe it's only 24. And if it's 24, then you say 50,000 divided by 24, and that's going to give you a daily word count target of 2,083 words. Or because it's 83.3, you could say 2,084 per day. That is a more realistic way to look at it, in my opinion, because if you planned for the 1,667 and you didn't plan for these days off, then you're going to get to day 7 and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm already 2 days behind. And it's going to start to feel like a panic or like you can't do this. And then you've got to have massive days where you write like 5,000 to 6,000 words a day. And for some people, that's just not possible. And that's why you've lost Nano in the past. So the 5th step is to use the word count target sheets to create your writing plan. So I have 2 of these here, and I explained this last year, but I'm going to go through it again because I know that it can be a little bit confusing. So basically you have 2 versions of this. One version is if you're writing 15,000 words, or if you're trying to write 50,000 words and you're going to write all 30 days and you just want to use the NaNoWriMo targets. So these are the targets that will appear on the website, 1,667 per day. And then the total is what you should have cumulatively. So by day 15, when you're in the middle, you should have 1,667 for that day, and then 25,005 should be your total word count. So that tells you the daily target and then the cumulative target. The other thing that you do when you work on this, if you're filling this out, is you would say, day 1, 1,667 words. My words, this is how much you actually wrote. And the plus or minus for the day is whether you got above or below your word count goal. So let's say you wrote 1667 that day. You would write 1667 and you would write 0 because you were right on target. But let's say day 2, it was 1667 and you wrote 2,000 words. Then you would go back into your calculator and you would say 2,000 minus 1667, which was your goal, and you would say plus 333, so that you could see on this day you wrote 333 words above your daily goal. Then you've got the total cumulative goal, daily goal, cumulative goal, then your total. So your total is adding up what your total manuscript is so far. So like day 3, you're supposed to have 5,001 words written to stay on track for your 50,000. So here, if you had written 6,700 words, you would put your total as 6,700 and that you're 1,700 words ahead. And then any notes that you want to make about being proud of yourself, or something you did that helped you to get ahead, or something that happened that helped, sent you behind, like, oh, I didn't get to write today because my cat had to go to the emergency room. Let's hope that doesn't happen to anybody. But, you've got to write something like that in. So this is the targets that you'll have according to Nano. But I also have created a word count target for if you want to create a different goal other than 50,000, or if you're doing the 50,000 words, but you're not going to write all 30 days, you would change those daily targets. Because let's say I know that I'm moving on November 2nd to a new Airbnb. So my target for that day would be 0, which would change my total to still just being that 2,084 that I showed you. But then on day 3, I'm going to write 2,084 words. And then I'm going to try to have like 4,200 on day 3. So I would fill that out according to my new goals. Or let's say you were writing 60,000 words this month and you had a bigger goal than the regular, and you're only writing 25 days, you would take your 60,000 words and your 25 days from that previous worksheet, and you would find that you have 2,400 words a day. But that's not every day. That's for 25 days. So you would go through and you would mark off the days that you're not writing and put that as a 0 target. Hopefully that makes sense. If you guys want a more specific walkthrough of this, it's in last year's Nano stuff. So I will link to the video that has this workbook walkthrough for you. This next one is just another like game board for you that has all 30 days. And it has this game board around the edges here that goes up to the 50K. So when you finish your first 1,000 words, you can color this in, and you can make these in different colors if you want. What I like to do is, I usually don't use markers though, I use colored pencils, and I'll say, okay, day 1, I'll write it in one color. Day 2, if I wrote 3,000 words, I'd mark that off in a different color so that I could see when the thing was over, like my days chunked out of how many words I wrote. Again, this is one that you have 2 different spots to list things. You have your daily word count and your cumulative word count. Underneath each box, it has the NaNoWriMo cumulative word count. So 1667 by day 1, by day 15, you should have 25,005. When you're filling this out, what I like to do is at the top, I put what I wrote today. So if it was 1,500 words, that's today. If my total for the whole manuscript, let's say that by the time we get down to day 15, I'm supposed to be at 2505, I would write, today I wrote 2,000 words. Cumulatively, I have 28,600 words. Then I could compare that. So above the line says what you've written today. Below the line is what you've written total. And then you can fill out the game board. If you have a separate goal from, like this one is, it's not a 50,000 word goal. Let's say you were going to try to write 80,000 words in the month of November, and you're crazy, but you could do it. I know you can do it. There is another game board in the resource library. Look for the folder that says NaNoWriMo, and that one has one that doesn't have any dates or anything filled out on it. So you can use that instead if you'd like. This next part is new to this year's Preptober. So this is a sprint calculator. I love doing things like this. You guys may have seen me do this in some of my other videos. This has been really helping me to help figure out how many sprints I need to do to win Nano, or how many sprints I need to do to finish my book. So this is math, but it's helpful math. So let me show you quickly how to fill it out. You can read through this and basically you can see that what you're going to need to do is you're going to figure out three things. One, what's your typical sprint length? So we did actually an entire 5-day challenge on this called the Word Sprint Challenge. If you participated in that, then you already should know these things. If you didn't, there is a 5-day challenge both here on YouTube, so I'll link to that as well, that first video, and inside the resource library. But basically what we did is we tried out different times a day, different sprint lengths, so 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and you got to collect that data and see what was the best sprint time for you, what's the most efficient sprint time for you. So you're gonna need to know your typical sprint length. If you like to do 20-minute sprints or if you like to do 25-minute sprints, what's your preferred number? Number two, you're going to want to know how many words you average in a typical sprint. So you should know that you do 20 minutes and on average, you're going to write 300 words in 20 minutes. What's that average? If you don't know any of that stuff, there's some explanation here of how you can figure that out. But you could just say, you know what, I want to sprint for 15 minutes at a time, and then do 3 15-minute sprints, and then take the average and give that as your average word count. But you can just read through this and you'll see. Number three, you're gonna need to know how many sprints you need per day to hit your goal. So all that's gonna play on the stuff that you filled out earlier. So down here, what's your preferred sprint length? For me, it's usually 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So I'll put 20 minutes down here. What's your average word count per sprint? For me, it's 650 words. Don't compare yourself to anybody else though. For you, it might be 200, or it might be 1,200, or it might be 2,000. I don't know. Everybody's gonna have a different word count there, so there's no judgment, it's just knowing the data. Then how many sprints do you need per day? This is where we get into some math. So you would take your daily word count target. Remember how over here on this November calendar, we figured out your daily word count target based on your total divided by the number of writing days, and I got 2,084. So what I would do here is I would fill this out and I would say, okay, my daily word count target is 2,084. My average word count per sprint, like I told you, is 650 words. So I'm gonna take 2,084 divided by 650 words. So that's telling me I'm gonna need 3.2 sprints per day. So I'm really gonna need about 4 sprints per day. If I want to give myself a little bit ahead, I'm gonna need about 4 sprints per day. But I could put 3 to 4 also, because some days if I get ahead, I may only need 3. So I'm gonna need between 3 and 4 sprints per day on my writing days to hit my goal. This to me helps me because it's like, now I have a very specific target that I want to hit. When I get up, if I don't feel like writing, I can look at that and be like, all I need is 3 sprints. It's going to be okay. Let me just sit down and get one done right now. I can do another one after dinner and then another one before bed, and I'm done for the day. And that helps me to have that concrete goal. Now you have many other little things here. This first page is the example of how you would fill it out, and then the second page is where you go to actually fill it out. So for example, you've got those things, your total word count goal divided by your total writing days gives you your total target. We did that already on the November calendar. The next one is the daily word count target divided by your average words per sprint gives you the number of sprints you need to do per day. That's what we just did on the previous page. Now you've got a couple more things that you can figure out. Take the number of sprints per day, let's say it was 5 in this example, times your preferred sprint length plus breaks. So let's say I like to do 20 minutes with a 10-minute break. That's a 30 minutes. So I would say times 30 minutes equals 150. That's going to give me my desired writing time per day because I'm doing 5 sprints of 30 minutes each, gives me 150 minutes. So I know that in order for me to hit my goals each day, I need to be able to create space in my schedule for 2.5 hours of writing time. This is all going to depend on your numbers, and it's going to depend on how fast you write. Obviously, if you write really fast and you can write 1,000 words in 30 minutes, then you can finish your nano in an hour. But for some of us, we're only going to be able to write 300 words or 200 words in 30 minutes. So in order to hit a 10 times that for the day, we're going to have to write for 5 full hours. So this is going to let you know what's realistic for you and how much time you need to create in your space, and how much space you need to create in your time schedule. The final thing to figure out here is your total word count goal divided by your average word count per sprint. So that's the 50,000 words divided by 450 average per sprint, or whatever you put on this little box in number 2. And that's going to tell you how many sprints you need to do on average to win nano. So you have how many you need to do per day, but you also need to know, or you can figure out using this math, how many sprints it's going to take to win the whole month. And that can help, because maybe you're not somebody who's going to sit down and write 5 per day, but you can do 10 on one Saturday, 10 on another Saturday, and you can take those 112 and you can break them up. If you're a binge writer, instead of someone who sits down and wants to write 2,000 words every day, maybe you're going to write 20,000 words on day 1. Some people do that. So this kind of gives you a little bit of extra data. So here you have the empty boxes to fill out on your own. Now you have a word count tracker here, where this is basically your sprints tracker. So you can put your book title and your daily target up here. Remember, it was like 2,084. You put your daily target up here. Then the way you fill this out is these are all numbered. You've got 25 per column. So remember how in the previous example, I figured out that I would need 112 sprints to finish? I could put a little mark here that says like, yay, this will be my goal. You know, this will be my goal. This is how many I want to write. And then I can see how close I got. I can treat it kind of like a game. How close did I get to guesstimating how many sprints it would take me? And then it can feel really good if it only took me 98, that kind of thing. So the way you fill this out is you put in the first one, you put what you got for this sprint. So if you do 5 sprints a day, you would have 5 different entries for that day. Then here you put the cumulative total for the day. And then here you put the cumulative total for the month. So this is your daily sprints, your daily total, your monthly total. And you just keep filling that out until you get to the end of your sprints. And if you wanted to, and you wanted to really make a plan that you said, okay, day 1, I'm going to do 10 sprints. Day 2, I'm going to do another 10. But day 3, I'm going to take the day off. Day 4, I'm only going to write 2. You could go ahead and put dates on these as well out to the side. I only give you room for 150 sprints. If you end up needing more than 150, then just print one again, or you would find that in the resource library, you have some of these that aren't numbered. So you could just print out one of those and number it yourself. Another quote page, each day I move closer to my dreams. Then we have a rewards planner. We had this in the workbook last year, but it was just kind of different. It had some banners and stuff. This time it's just a table that you can put in your rewards. I feel like we're going to talk about how to build positive momentum, but I feel like having big rewards for yourself, it doesn't have to be expensive, just something that feels like a luxury, like an entire day of getting to play your favorite game. Or for 20,000 words, it might be like ordering Starbucks that you have Ubered to your house, which is a treat for you. 30,000 words could be something like that backpack you've been eyeing, a new set of pens, whatever it is. But do something that's going to motivate you. And it doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have to cost anything, but the rewards can help you. And if you post this somewhere on your desk or on your wall, it can just be that reminder that, oh my gosh, once I hit that, I can get that reward for myself. Okay, another quotes page, just right. And on the back, I believe in myself. Then you've got a list, if you wanna have a list of tools from that checklist that you wanna buy and prep, like I need index cards, I wanna get some colored Post-its, I wanna get this, this, and this, you can write that out. And then this is something that is new for this year as well. So this is a meal planner, and we are gonna have an entire video based on this, so I won't go over it too much in detail here, but basically I'm gonna show you how to brainstorm different breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner ideas and plan out your meal plans. So here is where you would basically put your favorite things. If you like to have a different breakfast every day of the week, you're gonna need 7. But for most of us, it's gonna be better to keep it as simple as possible. So we'll talk about this in the meal planning video. And the rest, almost the rest of this planner is that tracker. So basically you're gonna plan out your breakfast, lunch, and dinner for week 1. And on the second part, you're going to use this weekly schedule, separate it into 30-minute blocks to plan out when you're going to sprint. Now, I was talking about how some people on day 1 might actually go through and say, okay, I'm gonna sprint and I only need to do 5, but I'm gonna make it an epic day. I'm gonna do 5 in the morning and 5 in the night, and then color code those in and look at your other schedule. If you want to, you can fill in this entire schedule with everything you have to do. So you could put, I've got a doctor's appointment here, I've got to work from this time to this time, and that way you can see where your available time is. I really recommend doing this with colored pencils and kind of coloring in your work time as one color, your sprinting time as one color, when you're having your meals as a different color. Now, I did not date these, so if you want to, because we've got the dates over here, but if you want to, you could just put like the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I probably should have dated them, but I was just trying to get it done for you guys in time. So feel free to date those on your own. But this will give you an idea of when you're gonna do your sprints. Alternatively, instead of using it as a planning tool, what you could do is you could use this as your sprint tracker so that you could say, from this time to this time, I wrote 200 words, I wrote 500 words this week, you know, whatever. And you could write your sprints into this grid. And you have week 2, week 3, week 4, and then week 5, of course, you only have Monday and Tuesday of writing, and then it's into December. Then we're gonna get into pages, again, that there's gonna be a separate video on these pages, which is your brainstorming your ideas. So next week on Thursday, there's gonna be a video on, I already have a video here on the channel about how to brainstorm story ideas. So I'm gonna link that again down below for you. But on Thursday, we're gonna talk about how to come up with ideas, and then more importantly, how to choose which idea you're gonna write for Nano. So if you wanna go ahead and fill out the brainstorming of this, you can. And if you already know what you're gonna write, then that's awesome. You can start filling out this rough outline if you want. But we're gonna have a video on how to choose your idea, and then we're gonna have another video on how to create a rough outline. And we're gonna do that on these 2 sheets. And then one of the final videos of the month for Preptober is going to be filling out and creating your creativity toolbox. So feel free to read through this and start filling it out, but I am going to have an entire video on that as well. And then there's one final page that says, do not disturb, author at work, because whether you've gotten something published or not, you are an author, you are a creator, and you deserve the time that you need to indulge in your creativity this month. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I know there's some mathy kind of things, and there's pages that we're going to be filling out throughout the month. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can be here for the rest of the videos on Preptober, as well as my daily vlogs in the month of November called the NaNoWriMo Diaries. I would love to see you guys there throughout that whole experience and cheer you on throughout the month of November when you're writing for NaNoWriMo. Also, if you're not doing Nano, you can see how these kinds of pages can help you whenever you're on deadline or whenever you're working on a book, even if it's not 50,000 words in a single month. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to share these videos with other friends that you know are participating in NaNoWriMo. I would certainly appreciate it. And hit the like button on this video before you head out. I hope you guys are doing awesome. I hope you've enjoyed the Preptober workbook so far. And I will see you later this week for a video on how to choose and how to stick with your best idea for Nano. See you then. Bye.